My father demanded I sign over my rental properties to my brother because he had no income. Sign the papers, Amanda. Dad slammed his fist on my kitchen table, making my coffee mug jump. Your brother has a family to support. These are my properties, Dad. I worked for them. You have a husband with income. Patrick has nothing. It's selfish to keep everything when he's struggling. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. Patrick dropped out of college and refused every job opportunity. That's not my responsibility. His face turned red. Family takes care of family. If you don't sign these papers right now, you're dead to me. My father demanded I sign over my rental properties to my brother because he had no income. Hi, I'm Amanda. Today, I'm going to tell you my story. But before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. I never imagined my father would try to legally steal my life's work to give to my unemployed brother. But that's exactly what happened when I was 33 years old. My name is Amanda, and I'd spent the last decade building a rental property portfolio through sacrifice, hard work, and smart investing. My younger brother Patrick spent that same decade coasting through life, expecting everything to be handed to him. Growing up in Charlotte, North Carolina, the favoritism was obvious but manageable. Patrick was the golden child, the only son in our family, while I was the responsible oldest daughter. My sister Natalie was the baby, and she mostly stayed out of family drama. Our parents, especially Dad, had traditional views about gender roles and family dynamics that became more pronounced as we got older. Boys need more support, Dad would say whenever I questioned why Patrick got a new Ford Mustang for his 16th birthday, while I'd had to save for my own beat-up Toyota Corolla. He'll have a family to provide for someday. I learned early that complaining was pointless, so I focused on my own path. I went to community college while working full-time at a coffee shop, graduated with my associate's degree in business administration, and got a job at a property management company. That's where I learned the real estate game. My boss, Dominic, was in his 60s and had built a small empire of rental properties throughout Charlotte. He taught me everything: how to evaluate properties, manage tenants, handle repairs, negotiate deals, and most importantly, how to leverage equity to grow. Real estate is the best wealth builder for regular people, Dominic told me during one of our property inspections. You just need patience and discipline. I saved aggressively for 3 years, living with roommates in a cramped apartment near downtown and driving that beat-up Toyota while banking every spare dollar. At 26, I bought my first property, a small duplex in a working-class neighborhood near the university that needed cosmetic work. I spent 6 months renovating that duplex myself on weekends, watching YouTube videos to learn basic repairs. I painted walls, installed new light fixtures, replaced kitchen cabinets, and refinished the hardwood floors until my hands were covered in blisters. Once it was rented to 2 graduate students, the cash flow wasn't huge, but it covered the mortgage plus a small profit. More importantly, I had equity and experience. 2 years later, I used that equity to buy a second property, a 3-bedroom ranch-style house that I converted into a rental. My husband Logan, who I married when I was 29, was incredibly supportive. He worked as a software engineer at a tech company and had stable income, which helped us qualify for better loans. He never expected me to use my rental income for our household expenses, understanding that I was building something for our future. "This is your thing," he'd say while helping me paint yet another rental unit. "I'm proud of what you're building." By 33, I owned 4 rental properties, all cash flowing nicely. It wasn't passive income exactly. I still handled tenant calls, maintenance issues, and monthly bookkeeping, but it was mine. I'd built it from nothing. Meanwhile, Patrick's life was a series of false starts and excuses. He dropped out of UNC Charlotte after 2 semesters, claiming it wasn't for him. He worked random retail jobs at places like Target and Best Buy, never lasting more than a few months before quitting because management was unfair or co-workers were toxic. He lived with our parents until he was 28, paying minimal rent and saving nothing. Then he met Crystal, got her pregnant within 3 months of dating, and suddenly needed to grow up. They got married quickly at a small ceremony at the courthouse, and Dad helped them with a down payment on a small house in Gastonia. Patrick got a job at an Amazon warehouse that lasted almost a year before he quit over a dispute with his supervisor. The guy had it out for me, Patrick complained at a family dinner at Cracker Barrel. He gave all the overtime to his favorites. "Did you talk to HR?" I asked, stabbing at my chicken and dumplings. "Why?" "They never side with regular workers. The system's rigged." That was Patrick's attitude about everything. Nothing was ever his fault. The world was against him, and he was perpetually a victim of circumstances. After quitting the warehouse job, Patrick bounced between DoorDash deliveries and unemployment. Crystal worked part-time as a receptionist at a dental office, but with 2 kids under 4, childcare costs ate most of her income. They were struggling, and Dad became obsessed with helping them. "Your brother needs support," Dad would tell me during our weekly phone calls. "He's got kids to feed." "I understand it's tough, but he needs to find stable employment. There are jobs available. Not everyone can be as successful as you, Amanda. Some people need more help." The comments started getting more pointed. Dad would mention how lucky I was to have Logan's income to fall back on, how easy I had it compared to Patrick, who was the real provider for his family. Things escalated at Thanksgiving dinner last year. The whole family was there at my parents' house in their subdivision. Mom, Dad, Natalie, and her husband Greg, Patrick and Crystal with their kids, and Logan and me. Dad had been drinking bourbon, which always made him more vocal about his opinions. "Patrick, have you thought about real estate?" Dad asked loudly, his words slightly slurred. "Amanda's done well with it. Maybe she could help you get started." I felt Logan tense beside me. We'd talked about this possibility, Dad trying to involve me in Patrick's financial situation. "I don't really know anything about that stuff," Patrick mumbled, focusing on his turkey. "That's why Amanda could teach you. She's got what, for properties now?" "Yes," I said carefully, setting down my fork. "See, you could set Patrick up with one of those. Help him get some passive income going." The table went quiet. Natalie looked at her plate. Mom busied herself with serving cranberry sauce. "Dad, my properties aren't really set up for that," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "They're all actively rented with leases and mortgages." "But you're making money off them, right? You could share that with family." Logan spoke up, his engineer's mind cutting through the manipulation. "Amanda worked very hard to build her portfolio. It's her business." Dad's face reddened. "I'm not talking to you, Logan. This is family business." "Logan is family," I said firmly. "And my rental properties are not something I can just share. They have financial obligations, tenants, maintenance costs." "Always an excuse with you," Dad muttered, reaching for his glass. "Your brother's struggling and you've got multiple houses making money, but God forbid you help family." I worked for those properties. I saved for years, did my own renovations, learned the business from the ground up. "And your brother's working too. He's just had bad luck." Patrick, to his credit, looked uncomfortable. "Dad, it's fine. I'll figure something out." "No, it's not fine. Your sister has opportunities to help you, and she's being selfish." I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "We are leaving. Logan, get our coats." Mom tried to smooth things over. "Richard, let it go. Amanda, sit down. Let's just have a nice dinner." Not until he apologizes for calling me selfish for not handing over my business to Patrick. Dad crossed his arms, his jaw set. "I won't apologize for speaking the truth." We left, the cold November air hitting my face as we walked to our car. Logan held my hand tight as I fought back tears. Inside, I could hear raised voices, Mom yelling at Dad, Natalie trying to mediate. Natalie texted me later that night. "I'm so sorry about Dad's behavior. He's been stressed about Patrick's situation and drank too much." That was completely out of line. I appreciated her support, but the damage was done. I thought that would be the end of it. I was so wrong. 2 weeks later, Dad called asking to meet for coffee at our usual Starbucks in South Park. I agreed, hoping he wanted to apologize properly. Instead, he brought paperwork, a leather folder thick with documents. "What's this?" I asked, looking at the papers he slid across the small table, nearly knocking over my vanilla latte. "Transfer papers. I had a lawyer draw them up." You can sign 2 of your properties over to Patrick, and he can start managing them. I actually laughed, a sharp bark of disbelief. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You have 4 properties. You don't need all of them. Patrick needs income, and this solves the problem. Dad, I'm not signing my properties over to Patrick. That's insane. It's not insane. It's family helping family. You'll still have 2 properties plus Logan's income. Patrick will have something stable. I leaned forward, keeping my voice low even though I wanted to scream. Those properties have mortgages, ongoing expenses, tenant relationships. You can't just transfer them like baseball cards. The lawyer said it's all legal. Patrick would take over the mortgages and management. You'd be free of the responsibility. I don't want to be free of the responsibility. I built this business. These properties are my financial security, my retirement plan. Dad's voice got cold, cutting through the ambient noise of the coffee shop. So your retirement is more important than your brother's children eating. That's manipulative and unfair. Patrick's children eating is Patrick's responsibility. He's their father. He's trying. The economy's tough. Not everyone gets opportunities like you did. I made my opportunities. I worked 60-hour weeks. I lived in a crappy apartment with 3 roommates. I learned skills, watched endless YouTube tutorials, dealt with nightmare tenants and broken pipes at 2 in the morning. Patrick could do the same if he wanted to. Dad pushed the papers closer. Sign the papers, Amanda. No. Absolutely not. I left the coffee shop shaking with anger, leaving him sitting there with his unsigned papers. That evening, Dad called 3 times. I didn't answer. He left voicemails saying I was being unreasonable and heartless, that I was destroying the family, that I'd regret this decision. Over the next week, the family pressure campaign began in earnest. Mom called saying Dad was just worried about Patrick and asking if I could compromise somehow. Crystal sent a long text about how hard things were, how the kids needed new shoes and winter coats, how much Patrick looked up to me and how I could change their lives. Even Patrick called, awkwardly, asking if we could talk about Dad's idea. Patrick, do you even understand what Dad's asking? I asked him, pacing in my home office while Logan worked in the other room. Those properties aren't free money. They require work, financial management, dealing with tenants and repairs at all hours. I could learn. You learned. I learned over years while working in property management. I had mentorship, training, experience. You don't have that foundation. So you won't help me. I'll help you build your own career, find stable employment, create a budget. But I'm not giving you my properties. He hung up on me. Natalie was the only one who understood. Dad's completely out of line, she told me over the phone, her voice tight with frustration. He can't demand you give Patrick your business. It's crazy. Thank you. I feel like I'm going insane. He's always favored Patrick. Now he's trying to rob you to support that favoritism. Don't give in. I didn't plan to, but Dad wasn't done. 2 weeks after the coffee shop meeting, he showed up at my house unannounced while Logan was at work. I was handling paperwork for a tenant issue when the doorbell rang. Dad stood there with the papers again, looking determined. We need to settle this, he said, walking past me into my house without invitation. Dad, this isn't a good time. Sign the papers, Amanda. He slammed his fist on my kitchen table, the sound echoing through my home. Your brother has a family to support. These are my properties, Dad. I worked for them. You have a husband with income. Patrick has nothing. It's selfish to keep everything when he's struggling. My voice rose. Patrick dropped out of college and refused every job opportunity. That's not my responsibility. Family takes care of family. His voice was cold, final. If you don't sign these papers right now, you're dead to me. The ultimatum hung in the air. My father, red-faced and furious, was threatening to disown me unless I gave my brother my business, my life's work, my security, everything I'd built. Then I guess I'm dead to you, I said quietly, my hands trembling. Because I'm not signing. You ungrateful, selfish, he started, stepping toward me. But I cut him off. Get out of my house. Now. I gave you everything growing up. You gave Patrick everything. I earned what I have, and I'm not giving it away because you've decided he deserves it more. Fine. He grabbed the papers, crumpling them in his fist. Don't come to family events. Don't call me. You're not my daughter anymore. He stormed out, slamming my front door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. I sat down at my kitchen table, the same table he just pounded, and called Logan. He disowned me, I said when Logan answered, my voice breaking. Because I won't give Patrick my properties. I'm coming home right now. Logan arrived within 30 minutes, leaving work early. He was furious. He threatened you in our home? That's harassment. He's my father. He's someone trying to intimidate you into signing away your assets. This is financial abuse, Amanda. Logan was right. I contacted a lawyer the next day, a sharp woman named Patricia who specialized in family law. I explained the situation, showed her the transfer papers Dad had drawn up, played her the voicemails. She was appalled. Save everything, she advised, making notes on her legal pad. Every text, voicemail, document he gave you. If he continues harassing you, we can pursue a restraining order. Dad did continue. Dad called from different numbers when I blocked him. He sent letters to my house claiming I was destroying the family, that I was responsible for Patrick's children suffering. He showed up at one of my rental properties during a maintenance visit, causing a scene in front of my tenant, a nice graduate student who looked terrified. You're going to regret this. Dad yelled in the driveway while I tried to calm my tenant. You're tearing this family apart. That was the final straw. I filed for a restraining order, including all the documentation of his harassment, the voicemails, the texts, the legal papers he'd tried to force me to sign, witness statements from my tenant who'd seen him shouting at me. The judge granted it, ordering Dad to stay away from me, my properties, and my home. The family fallout was immediate and brutal. Mom was devastated, caught between her husband and daughter. She tried to remain neutral at first, but ultimately sided with Dad, saying I was tearing the family apart by involving the courts. Couldn't you have just worked this out privately? She asked during a tense phone call. He showed up at my house and threatened me. Mom. He harassed me at my rental property. What was I supposed to do? She had no answer. Patrick was furious, blaming me for making things worse and claiming I'd used legal action to attack the family. Crystal sent nasty messages calling me privileged and heartless, saying their kids would remember how their aunt refused to help them. Only Natalie stood by me. You did what you had to do, she said when we met for lunch at a quiet bistro. Dad crossed every line. I'm on your side. Her support meant everything, but losing most of my family hurt deeply. I went through weeks of questioning myself, lying awake at night wondering if I should have compromised somehow, given Patrick one property, found some middle ground. Logan kept me grounded. They wanted you to give away years of work because Patrick won't take responsibility for his own life. That's not compromise. That's theft. The consequences for Dad and Patrick unfolded over the following months. Without my properties to take over, Patrick had to actually address his employment situation. Crystal gave him an ultimatum: get a stable job or she'd leave and take the kids. Patrick finally got serious, taking a position in logistics at a shipping company that he'd previously considered beneath him. Ironically, he's been there over a year now and got promoted to shift supervisor. Turns out when Patrick actually applies himself, he's capable. He just never had to before because Dad always bailed him out. Dad's financial situation deteriorated. According to Natalie, he'd apparently taken out a personal loan expecting to help Patrick buy properties or make investments, confident I'd cave to family pressure. When I didn't, and when Patrick needed cash for bills instead of investment properties, Dad got stuck with debt he couldn't easily repay. His relationship with Mom became strained. They fought constantly about the situation, Mom blaming Dad for pushing too hard and driving me away, Dad blaming me for being stubborn and Patrick for not trying hard enough. At their church, where our family had been active for decades, word spread about the situation. Dad's version was that his ungrateful daughter refused to help her struggling brother. But enough people knew me, had watched me grow up, and they asked my side. The truth came out. The church community didn't react well to learning Dad had tried to coerce me into giving away my assets, and then harassed me when I refused. Several longtime family friends distanced themselves from my parents. Dad's reputation took a serious hit. People who'd respected him as a family man now saw him as someone who tried to financially manipulate his own daughter. Patrick and Crystal's marriage improved once Patrick had stable income and a promotion on the horizon. But Patrick still resented me for not helping when he needed it. He told family members I could have prevented their hardship by just being generous. The fact that his hardship was self-created through years of quitting jobs and refusing opportunities never seemed to register. About 18 months after Dad's initial demand, Mom reached out tentatively. We met for lunch at Panera, just the two of us, and she cried into her soup. "I'm sorry," she said, mascara running down her cheeks. "Your father went too far. I should have stood up for you." "Yes, you should have. He's my husband. I felt stuck between you both. I was your daughter being harassed to give away my life's work. That shouldn't have been a difficult choice." She had no good answer for that. We maintained polite but distant contact after that lunch. She'd update me on family news, send birthday cards, but the warmth was gone. I'd lost my mother, even if we were technically still in contact. Dad never apologized. According to Natalie, he maintained that he was right and I was selfish. The restraining order expired after 2 years, and he made no attempt to contact me. We existed as strangers who happened to share DNA. Natalie and I grew closer through all of this. She and Greg became my chosen family, along with Logan's parents and siblings who'd always treated me with respect and warmth. We celebrated holidays together, hosted barbecues, took trips to the beach. When I got pregnant 2 years after the property incident, Natalie was there for every milestone: the first ultrasound, the baby shower, the gender reveal. My daughter's birth crystallized everything. Holding her in the hospital, Logan beside me, and Natalie taking photos, I realized this was my real family. Not the people who tried to steal from me, but the ones who celebrated my successes and supported my boundaries. My rental business continued growing. I bought a 5th property, then a 6th. Logan and I hired a property management company to handle day-to-day operations as our lives got busier with our daughter. The passive income Dad had wanted to give Patrick was now funding my daughter's college account and our retirement. My father made his choice. He chose his golden child over his hard-working daughter. He chose entitlement over fairness. He chose manipulation over respect. Those choices cost him his relationship with me, his reputation in his community, and his peace of mind. I made my choice too. I chose self-respect. I chose to protect what I'd built. I chose to enforce boundaries even when it cost me relationships. Those choices gave me financial security, genuine family connections, and the ability to look my daughter in the eye someday and tell her I stood up for myself. If your parent demanded you hand over your business or life's work to a sibling who hadn't earned it, would you sacrifice your success for family peace, or stand your ground no matter the cost?